The story begins with our protagonist undergoing a futile death. After years of struggling, she finally settles it, only to be hit by a car and lose her life after calling her separated parents. As her life slowly dissipates, she feels a sensation of swelling, her breathing slows down, and she has nothing left to say. She dies. Suddenly, a lady grabs her hand in pain. As the girl opens her eyes, she notices a white-haired girl on the ground. She wonders why she's on the ground when she is the one in pain. If someone sees this scenario, they'll think that she's the one that hit her. At that moment, a blonde-haired man came at them, screaming, "Renee Blair," asking what she's doing. Our protagonist stares at him, confused by the situation. The blonde-haired man intervenes, and the girl on the ground exclaims, "Your Highness." When our protagonist takes a good look at the boy, she is captivated by his beautiful red eyes. The blonde-haired boy approaches the girl, asking Anastasia if she is okay. Anastasia replies that she's fine and he should not worry. Our protagonist stares at them, wondering what's happening. The blonde man glares at her with a hateful gaze that catches her attention. She wonders if she's dreaming. Without facing her, he informs her that he won't speak for long and she should stop causing trouble and leave. She thinks to herself, where is she supposed to go and who are these people? Suddenly, she notices that the girl's face is extremely swollen. She wonders what could have caused it. Looking at her hand that's in pain as if it had hit someone, she sees the girl's swollen cheeks and realizes that she had hit her, a stranger that she doesn't even know. She tries to apologize to the girl for the inconvenience. However, the blonde man towers over her with a dangerous glare. He inquires if she did not hear him. He approaches her inches away from her face and tells her to go back. Catching the hint, she runs away and arrives at a mansion. She falls to her knees, remembering the name Anastasia, Renee Blair, and realizes that these are all words from a novel that she once read. She turns back and spots a tool. She approaches the girl and inquires if she's Anastasia Solon. Her face turns a bit red, and she responds, "Yes." She then points to the blonde boy and exclaims that he is Burworth. He responds, "Birdworth." She is delighted, and this is a situation that can only be seen in novels. Possession. She got possessed by the infamous villain known as the craziest woman ever. She grabs Anastasia's hand and starts twirling her. She thinks it will be simple, all she'll have to do is get along with the heroine. However, it doesn't seem to be going so well, as the heroine looks scared. She smiles. From now on, her name is Renee. She hugs Anastasia, her heart beating rapidly in her chest. There's a saying that fortune comes after suffering, but then she didn't know being possessed by the villain wasn't exactly a happy occasion. She wondered why her neighbor ended up being so wicked and evil that she earned the nickname the most craziest woman ever. She found her conclusion to this the next day. On that day, she was fast asleep, the sheets were very soft, and she was comfortable. However, upon realizing this, her eyes open wide. She jumps out of bed, wondering how she received sheets so soft. She then remembers that she got possessed and is now living in a novel. In her original life, she used to wake up early and go to work, but that's irrelevant. Unfortunately, she does not remember the title of the novel that she read. The only thing she remembers is that the female lead is named Anastasia and there are many male lead candidates. As far as the character she possessed, she is known as Renee Blair, the kingdom's top troublemaker, master of slapping cheeks and responsible for chaos at parties. Her greatest title is the undisputed queen of party scandals. If she had a choice, she would not want to possess such a character. However, it doesn't matter because Renee Blair is someone that even the royal family can't ignore. The problem is Renee Blair is attacked at a certain party and loses her life. However, with so many enemies, she couldn't possibly know who the culprit will be. She jumps on her bed, thinking that all she has to do is stop doing evil deeds until she becomes friends with the heroine. However, it's strange how attached she's become to such a likable character, in her opinion. She thinks that if she shows a kinder side, there is a chance that male lead candidates will start liking her. At that moment, a maid knocks on her door. She tells her to enter. As the maid enters, she trembles in fear, not making eye contact and looking down at the ground. She now knows that it will take a while to change such a terrifying image of herself. Suddenly, a scream appears that states that today's mission is to slap the maid on the cheek. Will she accept or decline? She's confused. What does the system mean by today's mission? She clears her throat, exclaiming, "Watch this," pointing at the system. However, the maid shows no attention, only becoming more fearful. She then points again, what's this? The maid gets on her knees, exclaiming that she failed to understand the young lady's intention and begs for forgiveness. Renee responds, sorry for what? The maid, keeping her head low, responds, please calm down, miss. Renee responds that she's not mad and she should get up. She then yells that she's not mad and she should get up. A silence fills the air for a few moments. The maid suddenly starts crying, stating that she didn't hit her, so she scared her. Our protagonist has a long way to go before she can change her image. After that, things went extremely smoothly. The maid, moved by her performance, helped her get dressed. The maid states that she's the kindest young lady that she had ever met. She then looks at the system, realizing that she's the only one who can see it. She touches the system and feels a cool sensation like glass. She ponders if Renee Blair had committed evil deeds because of the system. Maybe she intentionally acted wickedly in order to fulfill missions. However, there's a refusal action next to it, so that can't be the case. But the term, today's mission, bothers her for some reason. She taps decline on the system, and the system disappears. She sighs in relief that it finally disappeared. However, she prays that it was only an illusion and it won't come back. Suddenly, a second mission occurs, to go to the study and clear out Renee Blair's house, then tear up Lurden's document. She becomes annoyed, wondering why the system keeps popping up with new mission. She wonders if it's going to keep popping up with notifications until she presses accept. Lurden Blair is one of the male leads. He's also her older brother. She believes that all these missions are rotten to the core, so she declines. If they keep popping up, she plans to reply without even looking. The system appears again, exclaiming that this is the last mission and asking if she will really decline. She declines and suddenly feels very happy. At that moment, the system appears again, stating that because she refused all of today's missions, she will receive a penalty, fever that will last for 1 week. Enormous pain will occur during the penalty period. She is shocked, wondering what the penalty could be. Suddenly, she falls to the ground, her temperature rising, her face red as a tomato. She reaches out for the system, but like a villain, it looms over her, letting her know that this is her penalty. She falls asleep, trying to stay thankful that she's still on the day. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Maconia, Asha sits at her table deep in thought as she does her work. The prince states that she seems troubled and asks if she's thinking about the same thing as he is. She tells him that she's sorry and that she can get everything done by today. He tells her that's not what he's asking. Lowering her gaze, she felt strange about what Renee said. The prince becomes furious that she was thinking about that woman. Ignoring this, she states that she felt different than usual. He inquires what felt different yesterday. She responds that the sudden hugging of her felt crazy, and she called him Burworth. Those words were like in the old days when they were children, without a care in the world, happy and not miserable as adults. However, he exclaims if she's trying to say that because things are different, they can go back to where things were before. He refreshes her memory. That woman has committed evil deeds for the past 10 years. His hand trembles, stating that she had given up over the past few years, but why now harbor false hope? He shouts that she's not the same Renee Blair they once knew. She's even now so evil that she even abandoned her own flesh and blood. Suddenly, a handsome young man enters, asking if they were talking about him. The prince inquires why he came in without knocking. He responds that he knocked, but no one was responding. Since they seemed to be talking about him, he just decided to let himself in. The prince realizes that he used magic to enter the room. The prince asks, "What's the matter?" He responds that the matter is with his assistant. He approaches a pile of paperwork, stating that she has a lot of paperwork to do. Anastasia smiles, explaining that she's sorry and that she'll finish it soon. Lurden requests that she help him find some documents as if a few knights have slain a dragon. She finds the documents and states that they should be his documents. He thanks her for the document. Then he points to his cheeks, asking about the slap she received. She smiles, stating it's fine as she has used healing magic to heal herself. He says that she should tell Renee to apologize. She responds that Renee has nothing to apologize for. At that moment, the magic department Horatia points out that red rocks are attached, and the significance of red is very important. He reads the letter, then takes on a serious expression. He walks away, revealing that he must leave to go to the mansion. He reveals that his sister has collapsed, and Anastasia is so shocked that she drops her feather pen. Nothing like this has occurred in the last 10 years. A servant informs him that a maid who attended to her in the morning found her first. Lurden asks if there's any sign of foul play. The servant responds that the maid saw no signs of illness early in the morning, The servant calls for the chief physician to confirm, but the physician states it's an unknown illness, the treatment isn't working. He inquires if she's actually sick. The maid tells them that she had seemed different today, she had held her while she cried, and the more shocking part is that she wasn't scolded today. Lurden bursts into her room, seeing her feverish state, her sweating and red face. He attempts to heal her, but as he's healing her, his magic spell begins to crack, it shudders. Healing magic and holy magic aren't working. The servant inquires if they should find another physician. Lurden tells him no and orders him to leave the room. In the next scene, someone exclaims, "This insolent human being, I will curse you. With a curse that will cause you to live your life without ever being loved." Suddenly, she wakes up drenched in sweat and scared. She cannot believe that she got penalized for not doing anything wrong. She hopes that she'll never have to experience that kind of pain again. She ponders if the original Renee was like that too. She is beginning to understand her now. She must have been afraid to experience the same agony again. Now, what can she do? As her dream is to stop doing terrible things and be friends with the heroine. However, one good thing came from this incident. She remembers that the original Renee died in the ballroom. She thinks to herself, if it was because of the mission window. Renee exclaims, "That can't be." Her brother stops reading his book and inquires, "What can't be?" Renee is surprised but notices he has the same hair color and eye color as her. She comes to the conclusion that he is her brother. She exclaims, "Lurden." She stops, pondering if she is using the wrong name. She then exclaims, "Opa." His cheeks turn red, and he gets up from his seat. She frantically apologizes, saying that she's sorry. Her brother stares at her and exclaims, "You're sorry?" She then remembers that Renee never apologizes. Her brother exclaims that she must have been in a lot of pain to say sorry as soon as she woke up. He tells her if she's going to apologize, she should apologize to Solon, who she scolded yesterday. Her brother is an extraordinary genius who inherited the Viscounty at a very young age after losing their parents early, but now, inside his heart, he only thinks of his aide and fellow magician, Anastasia. He approaches her, glaring and inquiring if she has any intention to apologize. She nervously sweats, stating that she was just thinking of ways to apologize to her. He walks away, telling her to take care of herself as it hurts his heart to see her in pain. She jumps out of bed, pondering if it is normal for a family to be by your side when you are healing. She hopes that's the case. Suddenly, the clock tower strikes noon. At that moment, the system appears, telling her to slap the maid's cheek, accept or decline. She immediately thinks to accept it but doesn't have the heart to go through with it, so she decides to leave the maid's cheeks alone. Moments later, she inquires about the maid's name. The maid begins to cry, surprised that she was curious about her name. Renee can't possibly bring herself to hit this child. The maid responds, stating her name is Handel. Renee thinks hitting someone for no reason is too cruel. She might as well hit herself. Suddenly, she slaps herself, thinking if she does it, the system will go away. Unfortunately, an error appears, informing her that she's not a maid. This action frightens Handel. She inquires if she should call a physician to help her. Renee then has the idea to become a maid from now on. She stares at her hand, thinking that she doesn't like being sick. However, this is for the greater good. She slaps herself with all her might, but in the end, it fails. She then attempts to declare herself a maid. The system replies, "Error, not a maid. How would the second in command of the mansion ever be a maid?" Her actions terrify Handel to the point that she cannot speak. Renee thinks to herself that since Lurden is in charge of the mansion, maybe he can hire her as a maid. However, she's not stupid and knows that he'll treat her like some kind of weirdo. The maid grabs her arm, stating that if she's angry, she should hit her instead. Renee puts her hand on her shoulder, assuring her that there's no reason she would hit her. Despite the fact that Renee before had hit her plenty of times, suddenly, she decides to go and see her brother. Upon entering his room, he comes near her in a creepy fashion and asks what she's doing there. Surprised by his behavior, she suddenly pushes him away, causing him to land on the ground. He stares at her and inspects himself, obviously shocked. Seeing what she's done, she rushes to his side. He looks at himself, shocked at the situation. She extends her hand to help him, but he ignores it, stating that she thought of him as a ghost. He walks away, exiting through the door, and she runs after him, stating, "Let's go together." Upon entering a study room, she ponders why it's so spacious. She then sees an instantly irritating pile of documents that invades her line of sight. However, she doesn't care. She tells her brother that she has something to say. He responds, later, as he is busy, she informs him that it's something very simple and he only needs to give permission. She tells him that she will take care of the employee management from that point on. He is surprised. He questions her, "What's the catch?" She responds, "There is no catch, you're doing all the work because you're a workaholic." He responds that she was supposed to be in charge of management but she did not do her job. She can't believe the original host had been passing everything to her brother. She must have had no conscience. She states that it was originally her job, so she will take care of it. Seemingly annoyed, he inquires, "What's the catch?" She responds that there is no catch. She becomes a bit irritated and inquires what she must do for him to trust her. If he doesn't trust her, then he should add conditions. He seems to be thinking about it. She believes that if she does well, he will trust her. He then inquires why her face looks like that. She holds her cheek, brushing it off. He inquires who hit her. She asks if he's worried about his one and only sibling getting into a fight. She then tells him to forget about that and inquires if he's going to hand over the work or not. She smiles while making a pose, stating that if there are any conditions, if there's anything that she can do, she will do anything. He lowers his gaze and, in a pleading voice, asks that she does not abuse her power. She wonders if he's saying not to abruptly cut off employees. He tells her no arbitrary wage cuts. She exclaims, "Of course." He lowers his head and states that if she abuses her power, he will kick her out of the family. He coming on very strong, but it doesn't matter. She smiles as she knows she's only trying to better herself. She holds out her hand to make a pinky promise, and he is surprised but does the same, and they pinky promise. He then tells her that she's become weird. She laughs, calling him silly, revealing that she's only becoming the way she used to be. Later on in the mansion, a servant brings her a stack of paperwork. She notices the stack of resignation letters and thinks it all has to do with Renee, but since it's a task she's been entrusted with, she'll do her best. She notices a resignation letter for Susan Bellamy. She's a full-time maid, but Renee had no clue they had one. She wonders why she's never seen her before. The plans are written all over the place and all the work is being done by Handel. She decides to inquire about it later on. She then notices an address for the Hugo-Knights. The document states that the Hugo-Knights discovered a wind elemental dragon, residing in the eastern Sukia Mountains. The extermination was completed over the weekend. The body is scheduled to be distributed to some mausoleum, excluding the bones and heart. She notices Lurden's signature below and wonders if it was sent to her by mistake. She is then startled by knocking at the door. One of the servants enters the room, requesting a document they accidentally left behind. She gives her the document. Inquiring if this is it, she nervously smiles, wondering if she was not supposed to see it. Lurden had informed her earlier that it is time to hire new employees. She realizes this is the perfect opportunity to go through with her plan. Moments later, she writes out everything for her application and stamps it, and now she is an approved maid. She goes to the mirror, and just the sight of her already swollen cheeks from the earlier hit makes them hurt. She barely touches her cheeks, and the system informs her that she did not touch it. She sighs, knowing it wouldn't be that easy. She stops intensely, the power of the attempt so intense that her face becomes disheveled, and the system informs her that the mission is complete. Handel approaches Renee's room and hears her screaming and laughing that she finally did it. She looks mortified, wondering what happened. Earlier, Lurden had asked Handel to apply ointment to Renee's face and not inform her that he was the one who gave it to her. The maid is excited but also a little scared. What if Renee was hurt? What would she do then? But now she has changed. Renee opens the door, greeting Handel. She shows her the ointment and states that she wanted to apply it to her cheeks. Handel seems excited that she wanted to do that for her. She had never believed there would be a moment when Renee would think she is beautiful, but now she's changed. During that time, Renee learned a few things. Firstly, if she refused all 3 missions, she would receive a penalty. Second, she does not have to complete all 3 missions, just completing one, like hitting the maid's cheeks, is enough. Lastly, if she succeeds with the mission, she receives money as her reward. However, even without doing anything, she has a lot of money. She feels that earning money by doing wrong things feels wrong. Oh yes, there's one more thing. When the clock hits 9 o'clock, she always hears a sound, and the mission window appears. The mission tells her to go to Lurden Blair's room and set all the documents he worked on all night on fire. She thinks they're starting off with something malicious and decides to reject it. Suddenly, she notices Lurden and inquires what it is. He approaches her and questions if she isn't showing things today. She fears that she looks like she will attack him if he gets any closer. The window states that today is a celebration for the return of the Hugo Knights and that she should go and decide if she would like to accept. The king took an interest in the Hugo Knights, who were responsible for subduing a dragon. The king wanted to meet a part of the royal family, so the celebration is to formalize it. Suddenly, she remembers that Renee Blair died at this event, and that event is today. For the sake of her safety, she decides to reject this mission. She tells her brother that she's not going to the celebration. However, her brother asks her to not cause any trouble. She gets angry, asking if she's caused any trouble lately. He places his hand gently on her cheek, telling her not to demean herself, which gives her goosebumps, unless there's something wrong with her head. She smacks his hand away, stating that there's nothing wrong with her head. He smiles and leaves. She then brings her attention back to the window, but to her surprise, it's no longer there. She realizes that she must have accidentally clicked it. She falls to her knees, this anxiety driving her crazy. But a lot has changed since she stopped committing evil deeds, but it's okay. She knows that all she needs to do is avoid being in plain sight and hide, but she knows that if she gets that fever again, she may accidentally lose her life again. She arrives at the imperial palace and informs her servant that she'll just be in and come back out. She inquires if she looks calm, but in actuality, her face looks extremely pale. The servant states that apart from her being quiet, she seems quite hurt. She awkwardly smiles, stating that she tried to cover up the bruise but wonders if it's noticeable. Suddenly, she notices Anastasia, in her black dress with a basket in hand, staring off into space as if she's on a mission. When she sees Renee, she drops her basket in shock. At that moment, Renee realizes that she has yet to apologize to Anastasia. She approaches her, attempting to apologize. At that moment, two guards block her path and ask to be shown an invitation. She tells the guard that her brother Lurden entered before her and accidentally took her invitation with him. Anastasia begins to pick up the invitations and states she will check. Renee decides to help her. Anastasia smiles, glad that she could receive some help. Her smile is too blinding, it's like the arrival of an angel. Anastasia informs her that Lurden did not mention anything and there's no invitation for Renee. However, Anastasia suggests that there could be some misunderstanding. That is possible since Renee had lied. She confidently states that even if a misunderstanding has occurred, there's no way that her invitation is the only one missing, so they should call Lurden to verify. The knight informs her that they cannot leave their post. She responds that they're only going to verify for a minute. The guard states that if she does not have an invitation, she must leave. Becoming frustrated, she asks Anastasia to call her brother. At that moment, she gets a strange feeling that something is wrong. A boy with raven-like hair and purple eyes like rubies appears behind her with a deadly smile, greeting her and inquiring what is happening. Renee wonders what's up with him but finds his face familiar. The guards inform him that they are discussing something because the invitation could not be verified. He smiles, stating that he sees. Renee becomes serious and tells him to get his hands off her. He then exclaims, "Renee Blair." She inquires if he knows her. He responds that he does, anyone in the country knows her. She becomes even more furious and states, "Then why are you using informal language?" He smirks, stating that since they're here, they should use informal language. He then declares that in that case, they should consider each other partners. Irritated, she inquires what he means by partner. The servant tells her that since this man is a knight of Hugo, he can enter with a partner. Renee responds, "Is that so?" He comes closer to her ear and states that's right. He reminds her that since she wanted to attend the party, if she becomes his partner, she can, but there's a catch, she'll have to stay with him for the entire night. She thinks about it for a moment and remembers that just taking one step inside counts as a mission success. Suddenly, the knight changes his mind, stating that if she doesn't want it, it's okay. She grabs him, pulling him close, and states that she loves to be dominated and that she's stronger than she looks. She holds on to him, stating that she will be the one to be his partner, so he must just wait a second. Anastasia then exclaims, "Daiwan Fergus, knight." Her sudden outburst catches Renee off guard, but Fergus seems unfazed. At that moment, memories begin to become visible in her mind. Daiwan Fergus had said that he never liked her from the beginning. She realizes that she knows this person. This man is the person who will take Renee's life. Anastasia drops her hand, stating that she made a mistake and already had the invitation. She hugs her knees and glares at Fergus, stating that she will accompany her. Anastasia hugs her. She is intoxicated by Anastasia's smile. Fergus states, if that's the case, it cannot be helped. Renee inquires if Anastasia will really be accompanying her, and what about the job she's doing. Anastasia assures her that the job does not matter, she doesn't really have to do it. The door opens, and Renee is fascinated by the beauty inside the palace. Who knew such a lavish and gorgeous party existed? Suddenly, the window appears, stating that an error has occurred. The window reveals that she will undergo a fever for half a day. It didn't take her long to realize that the reason the mission failed was because it was not forced entry. Lurden notices her strange demeanor and wonders where she is hurting, as she had said she wouldn't come, but now she arrives at this point where her head is hurting so much. She inquires if he is worried about her. He tells her that he guessed she could say that he is, however, it's not her, it's Solon. She thinks that there is a penalty for rejecting 3 missions and wonders why the sudden change. However, the pain she's feeling now is much more bearable than the pain she felt before. Renee suggests they should go to the balcony. Renee sits on a chair, declaring that she feels much better now. Anastasia inquires if the fever from last time didn't heal. Staring at her weakly, Renee inquires how she knew about that. Anyway, Renee informs her that she'll be okay, she'll be fine in half a day. Anastasia asks what she means by that, but since she has a fever, she will call a doctor. Renee weakly tells her that she doesn't understand why she's so kind. How can she be so kind to Renee Blair, a woman who has done nothing but terrible things to her? Isn't she tired? Hasn't she wanted to give up many times? Why doesn't she just give up on her? Anastasia interjects, stating that she isn't kind. If she were kind, she wouldn't have stolen her invitation. Renee is shocked, and Anastasia declares that her invitation was with her the entire time. Anastasia looks down at her knee and states that she had hoped she would not come to the party. Renee then asks what she's saying. Anastasia then reveals that she is lying. Renee comments that she had insisted Lurden take her invitation and that she's not that naive. But considering that she always got into fights at the party, it was natural to wish that she would not come. She smiles, stating that because of the way she acted, she understands why they resented her. Suddenly, the window appears, stating that there are hundreds of people at the party she should insult and slap in the face. Renee becomes serious when she hears the term slap. She wonders if the window is trying to take revenge for the slap earlier. Renee wonders how she will choose, be extremely sick for an entire week or be someone who slaps someone else's cheek. She didn't realize that Renee probably lost her life because she slapped Daiwan. She stares at the screen, wondering what she should do. Suddenly, the prince appears, attempting to look cool and impress Anastasia. Anastasia informs him that Renee had a fever and she's merely helping her out. The prince responds, questioning why she's concerned about that. He says this, but Renee knows what he really means, he just dislikes her. The prince states that all members of the Hugo Knights are arriving soon, so she should stop making a fuss and leave. At that moment, Anastasia summons a non-melting ice and places it at Renee's mouth. Renee thanks her for her assistance. She tells her that she will see the Majesty and then be back. She decides that she has no choice but to accept the mission. At that moment, her brother appears. He states that she had said she would not come to the party today. He inquires why she looks like that. She smiles creepily, seemingly worried about something. Suddenly, she notices a number appearing over her brother's head and thinks that it's already been checked. Seeing no other choice, she rushes past her brother. He tries to stop her, asking if she has a fever, but she has already escaped. As she runs past the nobles, each person has a number appearing over their head. Then she notices Anastasia and smiles happily. Anastasia inquires why she came out. Renee says the pain has subsided. She inquires if Anastasia has a mirror. If the 100th person she sees is herself in the mirror, she can succeed by slapping herself. Since it worked before, it is definitely possible. Anastasia hands her a handheld mirror. She takes the mirror and runs off, thanking Anastasia for it. She had waited for the 99th person. Now if she closes her eyes and finds a secluded place, then just slaps her cheeks, the mission will be over. Moment, she collides with someone, and the mirror breaks. She wonders what she should do about the mission and the penalty. Then a young, handsome knight with white hair extends his hand, asking if she's okay. She glares at him and insults him. The mission tells her that she's halfway successful, now all that's left is for her to slap. She lowers her head, unable to believe the mirror is broken. But luckily, it was not a huge injury. She says that it is broken. The man tells her that he will compensate her and asks her to please refrain from touching her face, as there might be fragments of the mirror. She then barely touches his hand. He tells her not to touch him so carelessly. She's irritated that he wouldn't even give her a hand. She yells, annoyed that this man wouldn't even give her a hand. Why does she have to be like this? Why does the system want to harm people? With her head lowered and tears streaming down, she reveals she just wants to live a normal life. The knight states if hitting him will help relieve her frustration, she can go ahead and hit him. Renee inquires what he said. She exclaims if hitting him is the only way to ease her heart, she can. She looks at him as if he's nuts. She inquires if he's serious. He responds yes, he's serious. She's taken aback. He further states she can hit him or even take his life. She thinks he's a strange person, but she can't miss this opportunity. She knows if she receives a harder penalty, she will lose her life. He then states he knows she won't take his life. Suddenly she slaps him across the face. Despite his boldness, it's clear he felt the pain, but it also hurt Renee to slap such a kind and weird guy. Window tells her it was a success. Feeling his face, the guy comes to the conclusion that she was really mad. He then grabs her. Before she could fall, injuring herself, almost immediately after holding her he knew she had a fever. He carries her in his arm, down the banquet hall. Suddenly Win appears, exclaiming the banquet hall changes its appearance every time he visits. He then approaches them stating she's Renee Blair. The white-haired guy asks who she is. He exclaims she's Konai's representative lunatic. He smirks, announcing he has to take her life. But how shall he do it? Suddenly someone yells, "Get away from Renee!" This instant, and inquires what they're doing. The white-haired knight comments it's a misunderstanding. She shouts they expect her to believe that. Win then points at the white-haired knight, asking if she didn't see how she treated his friend. Anastasia takes Renee away from them and exclaims Renee hit because Win must have done something. Win wonders why is it always him. He questions if she was always like that. The white-haired knight inquires about her identity. He tells her she's called Anastasia Solon. The white-haired knight asked if he's actually planning to get rid of Renee. No matter how unusual the banquet hall is, the enemy is not just one or two villains. It would be difficult to even identify the culprit. If that's the case, he inquires why he hesitated. Win tells him he doesn't know. Before, just looking at her annoyed him, but today she feels different, like someone else. He decides not to get rid of her as he believes he might regret it. A window appears stating get rid of Renee Blair at the banquet, so he declined. He comments it's been a while since he got sick. Meanwhile the nobles gather together, asking one another what Renee is doing. They guess she's plotting something. Little do they know she's received a new mission to disgrace a noble by shoving him into a cake. If only the first mission hadn't been about injuring Catherine, and only if the second mission hadn't been about setting Lurden's room on fire, she hadn't even planned on attending the banquet. Suddenly her brother grabs her, questioning about her well-being. She tells him she's fine. He then interrogates her and the identity of the person Solon brought to the carriage yesterday. She looks away and explains she was planning and thanking them. Larden informs her if she's going to be sick she should at least be by his side. Because she fainted earlier, she doesn't remember who she hit. However, since she's alive she doubts it's Win. Even by looking at his face it's clear he's unharmed. She tries to remember, but she can't remember his face. Whose face did she slap? A man approaches them stating it's nice to see the two of them together for the first time. The old man gives Blair a smirk, exclaiming she's seemed to have changed a lot lately. She smiles brightly but wonders if he's openly mocking her. However, she's an adult so she can handle it. Larden asked what's his been. He explains he's impressed as a month ago she was like a wild colt with a loose rein. He leans closer, stating seeing her behave so quietly, as she come to her senses. He looks down at her, and comments that she has many virtues apart from personal assets. Blair is disgusted, finally catching on to this ancient riz. Larden intervenes, stating he keeps rambling when he's tried to stay quiet. The old man responds he said nothing wrong, he's only worried about Blair. Larden glares at him, inquiring if he looks like he's a fool. He exclaims 3 years ago, when this child was, the Count intervenes. Larden informs the Count that he's aware that because of he refused, he started spreading rumors. Renee begins to think about a proposal, realizing that this man proposed to renew Blair when she was still a minor. He mutters to the Count, going around behind his back spreading baseless rumors. Did he think he wouldn't find out? The Count grips his cane as a dark aura emanates from the cane. The Count can't believe he was embarrassed in a crowded place. Someone then tells the Count to pull himself together. Suddenly the Count yells shut up. He rushes towards Renee, lifting his cane above him, stating don't give him orders. Suddenly she grabs the cane. He tells her to let go of the cane. However, she tells him that's dangerous and he should let go first. Lurden grabs her hand, causing her to release the cane. suddenly the window informs her the mission is a success. The nobles stare at him, commenting that he's pathetic. This scenario is the same as 3 years ago. He wanted to make her kneel, but she was so stunning and looked gorgeous. In her red dress, she asked him if he wanted to marry her. She covers her face with the fan as he asked her age.
FBI, open up!
He wonders how he got entangled in this scenario again. He did what he was told. The entity assured him they would take notice. He was supposed to do what the staff told him. But what should he do now? The staff tells him to give them a good beating, so that he can't be ignored. He must crush them and trample them down. Renee turns her head and is petrified. She falls to the ground. Not completely understanding the situation, strangely she can't take her eyes off the staff, but Larden holds her, shielding her with his body. Surprisingly, Daiwen takes the full impact of the staff. She wonders what he's doing. Daiwen states that this event was held by His Majesty for the knights. He takes the staff from the count, stating that it's made of dragon bones. Renee remembers it was written in the report by the Hugo Knights. Daiwen calls a follow knight and orders him to place it in storage. The knights distribute everything from a dragon's body, whether skin, claws or teeth. They never handle bones. They are the purest embodiment of a dragon's magic, so if it falls into humans' hands it will be a disaster. Daiwen inquires where he got such a thing, and if he captured a dragon. The count exclaims what he's talking about, or does he dare to doubt him? Daiwen leads on the count's forehead, and blood drops on his nose. He tells him not to spoil the mood by getting dragged away. She questions if Daiwen took the hit instead of her. She confronts him, questioning if he's okay, and why he took the hit for her. She states why didn't he dodge, he's a knight and a dragon slayer on top of it. He stated he wasn't feeling well, but she seems like someone that knows how to worry about others. Larden approaches her and Daiwen reveals they had seen each other when Renee had gotten sick, but as a result they couldn't talk. She notices Lurden doesn't seem to like Daiwen. Lurden comments that they seem close, which Renee promptly denies. Daiwen proudly states that they started talking to each other informally yesterday. He tells Daiwen that there's an infirmary at the end of the corridor. Daiwen responds, instead of going far, it would be nice if Larden could heal him. Larden responds he's sorry, but he doesn't use magic recklessly. Daiwen smiles, asking who's responsible for this. Changing the topic, Larden inquires how Count Sirius had the dragon bones. He looks at Renee and states he'll tell him when they're alone. She asked if it's because of her, then she'll move to another place. He smiles, telling her she was impressive yesterday. She's confused. Daiwen explains that Shaun, the person she slapped, still has a swollen cheek. He inquires if her behavior was just a act. He then states he didn't mean to offend him. He was only curious. He whispers to her that he doesn't like the guy, so he's grateful to her. He tells her he never thought they would be there and that he would be grateful to her, but she notices that his eyes say otherwise. He knows that yesterday was just luck. If the opportunity arises again, he will get rid of Renee without any issue. Lurden grabs her and tells him that he should go. He happily apologizes, telling him goodbye. Lurden responds that he hopes he won't pull tricks next time. He replies that he did not pull any trick. Outside the Imperial Palace, she walks around, thinking that if it wasn't for Cian, she would have met Daiwen instead. It could have been luck, or maybe her original plan was distorted. She's not sure. However, she is sure of one thing: the chance of that man taking her life has not changed. She heads towards her carriage and decides to go back to her mansion and collect more information. Suddenly, she feels an extremely unpleasant sensation in the surrounding area. She hears the voices of people asking for help and mercy. She wonders what it could possibly be. She knocks on the carriage, calling for Catherine, but suddenly a huge blast causes the carriage to burst. Renee is uninjured but is sent flying to the ground. She hears a voice explaining that humans are here. She sees people lying unconscious and wonders if they are alive. However, she notices Catherine among them. Renee looks at a creature in front of her, noticing the outfit it's wearing, and concludes that it is the creepy old man, Count Sirius. She's 100% sure that it's him. She decides to take off her shoes as they will only slow her down. As she's removing her shoes, the old man exclaims that she is the one who insulted him. He requests that she be disposed of immediately. Renee notices that it seems like two people are in one body. The demon approaches her, stating that the count wants her to be analyzed, but he tells her not to worry. He won't kill her, but he'll make her wish she wasn't alive. If she flees to the banquet hall, the Hugo Knights will help her. However, there are civilians at the banquet hall, so what can she possibly do? A sudden mission appears, stating that she has met a new being and she cannot die. Strangely, she should run to the banquet hall and subdue everyone. She can't believe what she just read. This mission is to subdue people. She doesn't like anything about the system. Everything has been okay until this point. This mission is actually asking her to take the life of others. She wonders why her and why they are doing this to Renee Blair. She punches the screen, wondering what she did wrong. At that moment, the screen asks if she will really decline. She comes to the conclusion that there's no way to survive. The demon inquires if she thought it would be easy. She bravely asks the demon what its identity is. He questions why she's asking that and if she's stalling for time. At that moment, the screen appears again, stating that the input time has been exceeded and the mission will begin. She is serious as the screen is doing whatever it wants, but it doesn't matter. The demon taunts her, saying it doesn't matter if she doesn't do it. He then moves and jumps into the air, slicing her arm and making her feel intense pain. The Count inquires why he didn't get rid of her in one shot. The demon tells him to be quiet. The Count reminds him that a Huguenot may appear while he's wasting time. Her arm has been cut. She screams, "My arm, my arm." The demon inquires if the Huguenots are really coming. However, the demon receives no answer. He thinks he has no choice but to find out himself. She didn't realize that her hand, which she had just lost, has regenerated. She rolls herself down the stairs in an attempt to slow down his progress. The demon slips and falls backward. The demon becomes serious, claiming this human woman and taking out his sword to finish her off. Suddenly, she remembers memories from her childhood, memories of Anastasia practicing magic and complimenting her, calling her a genius, memories of a red-haired, dark-skinned boy telling her that anyone who calls her a fool is a bigger fool, memories of watching her father behind a tree talking to his friend, but she always thought he never had one, and memories of trying to make friends with the young prince, who told her if she wants to be friends with him, she must have money. She returns to reality only to see Daiwen and Xian standing in front of her, protecting her from the demon.